All right, folks. Of course, I'm going to get swept into this whole thing as well because I weigh in on all the public issues, of course. And it's a big discussion in America right now. The death of children, the needless death of hundreds of kids. And it's time something has to be done. And I will be the first to go on record to say that I am also an owner of the instrument of death. And I confess now, something has to be done. Something's got to be done. And I don't know, we've got to do something about these. These kill what? Oh, you thought I was going to talk about the firearms? Oh, you thought the mass gun shootings and because I own rifles, I was going to talk about firearms. Oh no. Oh, well, let's talk about firearms. Let's talk about phones and firearms, shall we? Both of these kill hundreds of young innocent kids. This one happens to kill more. Oh, don't Google it. Since the mass shooting in Florida, which killed 17 people, there have been more than 17 children who have died because of distracted driving with cell phones. That you can look up. It's 9 per day in this country. Now, we have two instruments here. Both are killing children. Kids are dying from both of these things. If your mantra is not one more death, not one more needless life be lost, then you need to apply your fear, your anger, and you need to apply the solution to fixing both of these problems equally. If not, you're living by a double standard. You're willing to look the other way with one out of your convenience and not the other. Now, the argument will be that this was created to kill, and this was created for nice intended uses. But the fact of the matter is, this is being misused and causing death, as is this. Tide Pods are being misused from their intended purpose and causing death. Do you think the Tide company is not getting heat and being told that they need to remove their product, even though despite its intended use, it's being misused? Okay, so intended use is irrelevant. The only thing that is relevant is the outcome. What's happening now with these things? And if you are not willing to look at both problems and apply equally solutions to both of them, because this and this rifle, this phone and this rifle, can be legislated the same. They can be dealt with in the same manner. The only difference is your willingness to see it that way. Your willingness to accept accidental cell phone death, but not the death from a rifle barrel, is just as much the hypocritical double standard problem with all of this that me and a lot of other people have as actually finding the solution itself. If this kills teenagers, if this being wielded by young people not yet 21 is killing teenagers, and this should have an age limit of 21 years old, which is what's being proposed now by the president and other people, then why not this? Why isn't this taken out of the hands? Because it's being misused. Because the arguments are there. Oh, not everyone who owns this is doing bad things with it and killing people. Nor this. Not everyone under 21 is irresponsible when they use this, but this too. It's the same thing. We can't legalize these. These are part of the culture. There's too many of these. You couldn't round up all of these anyway. These either. It's the same thing. The same arguments. We can't do without these, but we can do without this. Well, not exactly. This right here didn't exist 20 years ago. Tell me how you can't do without this. Tell me how Junior needs to have this so that when he's done soccer practice at 3:30, he can call Mom and say, Mom, I'm done, come get me. When all we ever did was wait for the 4 o'clock bus to take us home after practice. Oh, sure, we didn't have the instant gratification of having Mom come pick us up. We had to wait a whole half hour. But we didn't need this. This wasn't essential because it did not exist. It wasn't there for us. And just because we conveniently have this now, we've become accustomed to using it, does still not require that this is necessity. It isn't. It was a luxury item 25 years ago by people, and then 18, 20 years ago, more and more people had them, and the first children to have them were mocked. I know a kid in town that had one. His parents were pretty affluent. They bought their kid at 10 years old a cell phone, and everybody went, oh my God, seriously? You're buying a kid this? So don't feed me the argument that this is so important now, then it's such a benevolent thing. And this is such a rotten thing. This unloaded gun is in no way going to kill me any more sitting here on this table than that cell phone is. In fact, this might put out radiation and give me a tumor, who knows? But it's the same thing. In the hands of somebody who misuses it, this has been proven to be more deadly per week in this country than this rifle. The only difference is how it's reported. Now, let me put it to you this way. Okay, you turn on your TV and you're sensationalized. Breaking news across the bottom. Kids walking out of school like this. Then they round up the kids. They get them on TV. What happened? What'd you hear? What'd you see? How many bodies did you trip over? Were people crying? Were people huddled in the corner? Was your heart beating fast? Did you call your mom? What did you say to your mom? What were your last words? Okay, pretty sensational shit. I will give you that. And pretty terrifying. But what if the same news network who has an agenda against guns decided they want these phones out of the hands of people? And they followed every night all of these police calls where there's kids laying in a ditch, bleeding, dying, some already dead, some of them won't make it to the hospital. And they put that on your TV. And then they rounded up the paramedics. Or they talk to the doctors, or they talk to the families whose last words, what were your last words to your son as he drove off, to the party or drove out to watch a movie or whatever? Or the passenger in the vehicle. What were the sounds? What did it sound like with the breaking glass and the screaming tires? What was the impact of the tree like? What was the crunching of the metal? Did they say anything in the car? Did she say another word before she died? If they sensationalize that at the frequency that it happens, as in 9 times a day, and that's what you saw on your TV all the time, would these fucking things really matter that much to you anymore? You would never let your kid leave the house with this anymore. If your goddamn mantra is not one more. And granted, these kids that go to these rallies now that are being used, and I don't fault these kids for it. I don't. Because they're impressionable, they're young, they're emotional, they're the perfect fucking people to use for the job by the media. These kids probably took selfies in the car on the way, and half of them probably texted while they drove to the rallies. But concerned not with this, but this fucking thing is the end-all, be-all tragedy in this country right now that we must focus on. It's a double standard. Now, I'm not honestly saying ban this, and I'm not saying in one way that school shootings are acceptable. But what I am saying is that if you take the combined media effort and political efforts in this country to attack guns and applied them honestly, in an honest way, with equal time and equal effort into the death that's going on with cell phones would scare the living shit out of you too. And you'd want something done, and you wouldn't be accepting anything. And maybe it wouldn't be as absurd to say that a kid can't have a cell phone until they're 21 years old. Who knows? I mean, your most rabid of liberals are going to shoot me down over this video. Oh my God, the difference in guns, and look at this weapon, you know what? Let's talk about that for one quick second, because we're into the 10-minute mark. Look at the difference in these guns. You see this? Look at this one. And then you got this one, right? You see the difference in the two guns, right? You do, right? This one's like Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, and this is like sniper. This is like sniper Lee Harvey Oswald stuff. This is the much more deadlier weapon right here than, well, no, they're not, obviously. People that know guns know these are two 30-30 lever action rifles. This one just has a scope on it that makes it a little bit, well, in some ways it makes it better to shoot or not better to shoot as a hunting rifle. Those who hunt know the scope, close range in bushes or whatever, can actually be a detriment compared to what they call iron sights, which is the sight that's on the gun. But whatever. But these are two identical rifles. The only thing different is the accessory, which makes this the more menacing looking rifle, which is the whole argument against the AR-15 that people have, because it's got the stock and it's black, not wooden like Grandpa had and all of that. But when you get into these arguments and these people want to twist things on you and manipulate you, that's what's going on. And it's going on with rifles. They're not focused on the true child death. That's not what they're after. They're after certain child death. They want to put that out there. Because if you want to be honest with yourself, if you really don't want to tolerate another innocent kid dying, then you need to look no further than your kid's backpack when they head out the door. You need to be honest about it. And even if you have that discussion with your child, I have the talk with my child. My child is a responsible phone user. The kid that's driving at him down the highway might not be. It's the same thing. And you have to look at it that way. And that's the problem I have. I have a problem with the double standard and the hypocrisy of it. I'm not saying either of these should be banned. Far from it. I'm not saying either is acceptable either. But in this world, one thing is for sure. You have to look at the world as an unsafe place. And if you're going to have a standard of living, and if you're going to accept that cell phones are okay, you need to accept that other people use rifles and that they hunt or that they want them for protection. Why do I give my kid a phone? Well, if your kid gets in trouble, you want him to be able to call, right? That's about the number one answer. You know, if my kid breaks down on the highway, I want him to be able to call. If my kid's gonna, out with his friends and they're all drinking, I want to be able to come get him. I don't want him riding home with his drunk friends, so I give him a phone for protection. So, yeah, and the same with these. People don't want these. They protect their kids with this just as much. Just the way that it is. And these were around a lot longer in this country. The culture, the means, these are how people used to feed themselves. That's how important they were. Whatever, decide yourself. But until you're willing to apply your standard of zero tolerance for child death to every facet of child death, don't pull the gun control bullshit on me. Don't. It's disingenuous. What you want is you want to get rid of guns. It's not that you're concerned with absolutely protecting your children. Because if it was, you would look at all of the ways that you could lose your child, and you would take steps against all of the means that you could lose your child.